Another question that just came in is we finally got the letter of intent for our space fully executed. Are there any concerns with
Yay.
us closing remotely? Yeah, congrats. Are there
Yay.
any concerns with us doing this closing remotely with something like DocuSign, or should we be doing it in person?
Yeah, very cool. So, just for those who don't understand all these terms or don't know what they are, letters of intent can be involved with buying and selling as well as leasing. It's basically an informal letter between all the parties that says we've been talking via email and phone calls and everything else about what we're going to do. So we're just going to take this all, we're going to put it in one written document as sort of the preliminary steps of negotiation. And so whenever we assist in a buy sale process, we're going to use a letter of intent that sends out to usually it's a letter of intent to purchase. So usually the buyer is going to produce this and send it to the seller. Again, no offense to anybody watching, we are not sophisticated business owners. Okay, we're just not. So sometimes it might be the buyer doing this for the seller, and that's okay. Or I'm sorry, the seller doing this for the buyer. But we're going to start with a letter of intent to outline the basic agreements. And then once everybody signs off on that, now we can start to move everything over into the more formal legal document that you do have an obligation and is a contract and everything else, typically called the asset purchase agreement is probably 85% of the time the document we're going to use. And that really codifies the full agreement. Anybody who has ever bought a house knows that there's this end to the process called the closing. Okay, and it's supposed to be everybody comes together and we go into a really fancy conference room and we sit down and I sit on one side of the table and Coop, you sit on the other side of the table, and our attorneys pass documents back and forth and say sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here, and we go, I don't know what I just signed, but cool, I trust you. Nowadays, especially again, we're not these like big multi-million dollar sophisticated business owners. We may or may not even have an attorney on our side. Like, what the hell, why do I need this formal closing? Can I just do it like in my box? And the answer is sure. Yeah, you just pull out your rogue box and you can sign documents on top of that, and that's your closing. But virtually, a lot of virtual practices are now enforceable and accepted by courts. So something like having an electronic signature on a membership document, have an electronic signature on a liability waiver, using something like DocuSign to sign an asset purchase agreement. That stuff's perfectly fine. Anything like DocuSign, Wodify, PushPress, any of these that allow for online signatures are going to be so time stamped and everything else with IP addresses that it's going to be near impossible. The most that somebody's going to be able to do is come up and say, I didn't actually sign the document. Okay. And yeah, that can cause a problem. But it would be like me coming up and saying, I just gave you $100,000, Coop, and I allegedly signed this document, but now I'm going to come back and be like, I didn't sign the document, but I still gave you $100,000. So we can look at all of the other circumstances, like that rarely happens. And we can look at all the other circumstances to say all evidence points to the fact that I signed this document. And that's going to be a hard one for me to win.
Okay, Matt. So last question is like, how important do you think it is that you're a gym owner yourself? When people are seeking legal advice, they want to talk to somebody that is going to solve the problem for them, but also
Mm-hmm.
somebody that kind of like knows where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you're dealing with these gym owners, how often do you find yourself drawing on your own experience or even just being able to empathize with them?
I mean, thanks for the softball finally, Coop.
It's the bottom of the night. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, constantly, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just go to your local attorney down the road and tell him that, ask him whether or not the membership contract that your client signed on Wodify is legitimate. And he's gonna be like, the hell's Wodify? Right. I mean, there's just there are terms and there's terminology that comes into play. There's you don't go to a criminal defense attorney to ask them your divorce question, because while we're all attorneys and we all know these areas of the law and that they exist, it doesn't necessarily mean that we know and understand all the intricacies that go into that area of law. I don't do divorce law. I don't touch divorce law. I know you can file for a divorce, and that's about it. Um, so this is, I've had this conversation with gym owners too. Like, this is all gym lawyers does. You don't have to worry about my litigation schedule. You don't have to worry about me not being able to get back to you on a phone call because I'm stuck in trial for 2 weeks. It doesn't happen. I maybe go to my gym in the morning until Summit now, Coop, because I'm still on schedule that I will have no more private training clients in my gym come June 1. It's happening. And at that point, I won't even go to the gym in the morning to do
Awesome.
private trainings anymore. I will only go to work out. But there's a certain level of knowledge, there's a certain level of understanding that you're coming to me with as a gym owner that I need to be able to match you on. And my over 10 years of gym ownership, I think, give me a unique perspective in order to understand what concerns you have, what you need to watch out for. And then I can put the document together for you to watch out for those things. But then also, I own a gym, and sure, I run a profitable gym, but those profits aren't always giant, right? We sometimes we operate with narrow profit margins. And so it's going to be really hard for me as a gym owner to go downtown Pittsburgh and find an attorney, and that attorney turns around and says, either one, here's my $5,000 bill to help me, or two, that's great, I charge $250 an hour. You owe me $1,000 retainer. And when I'm done producing your documents, if I've used up that $250 an hour, I'll bill you for the remainder. And you have no idea how much it is that you're going to pay in the end for documents that may or may not even be relevant to your business. And we know and understand that. And so we don't operate on hourly rates. We operate on flat rates. And much to my chagrin and your chagrin, Coop, I hear all the time, wow, that's all? Like that's all you charge for this? So, someday I'll listen, and maybe I'll up our fees, but
Get him while he's still undercharging, guys.
that's right.
So honestly, Matt, like in the last year, or I guess it's been slightly longer than that, you've been running
Yeah.
gym lawyers. It's actually been a comfort for me to know that there is somebody in the industry who is an attorney. It almost feels like a safety net for the fitness industry, where if somebody has a challenge, I can quickly say, you need to contact Matt at gymlawyers.com, instead of trying to Google and stress and like lose sleep over a client who's struggling with something. The best thing you can do, guys, is talk to an attorney before you set up your partnership, before you sign your lease, before you draft your own waiver. And that's going to save you tons and tons of headache in the future. But if you haven't done that stuff, I don't think it's too late to do it now, right? Like
Never too late.
press save game, protect what you've got. And then finally, if things have gone downhill and you're separating with your partner, the very best thing that you can do is get an objective third party into the discussion for you and potentially save a relationship, or, save your business. So thanks a lot, Matt. Thanks for being willing to do this. I'd love to keep doing this every month or every couple months or so in Gym Owners United for free.
Yeah. Anytime. I'm happy to get on and talk about this stuff. Thank you, Coop.
Thanks, guys. Everybody take care. Be safe. Call your attorney.